Hello and welcome to Module 4 in our series about playing golf croquet. In this module we're going to be looking at non-striking faults, some aspects of etiquette, calling a referee and some more tactics. So, non-striking faults. What is a non-striking fault? Well, if you think back to Module 2, a striking fault was any fault that was committed between the mallet striking the ball in the action of starting a shot, and then the striker, the person holding the mallet, moving away under control. And simply, a non-striking fault is any fault that happens outside that short period of actually striking the ball. And they're defined in Rule 12 in the Green Book, and it says a non-striking fault is committed if a moving ball touches any part of a player or the player's mallet, clothing or personal property, or a player touches, moves or shakes a stationary ball with any part of the body, clothes or mallet, either directly or by hitting a hoop or the peg, except when, and then there are various exceptions, such as when you're actually intending to strike the ball in a shot, or touching a ball in accordance with the direction of a referee or an opponent player, or playing a wrong ball, and so on. And so it's very simple that if you touch a ball when you're not supposed to be touching a ball, basically it's a non-striking fault. So if your hat falls off and hits a ball, that's a non-striking fault. And so it's quite simple that any fault which is not a striking fault is a non-striking fault. That's common sense, surely. So what happens in a non-striking fault and how can they occur? Let's have a look at some examples. So here we are at hoop 5. I'm going to be playing red ball, and as you can see the other three balls are closely clustered round. What I've got to be careful here is that first of all, in approaching the red ball to play it, I don't accidentally touch any other ball as I did the black ball there. What would happen if I did that? Well, first of all, I admit it to the opponent, and then the opponent can say, well, you put the black ball back to where it was, or he can say, leave it where it is, it's up to him. Then I lose my turn. Actually, and if in doubles I'm playing with a partner, our side loses its turn, not just me. So I would not be able to play the red ball, and our opponent would be able to play the black ball instead. So you must be very careful when coming near into a situation where you've got a lot of balls crowded together like that. So another example is if I'd managed to avoid touching the black ball with my foot, and I'm shaping up to hit the red ball. Oh, and I've just touched two balls with my mallet accidentally. That's another non-striking fault. It hadn't happened in the instant after I'd hit the red ball, my ball, deliberately to play the shot. It had happened when I was simply lining up to play the shot. So that's another non-striking fault, and it's the same remedy. I lose my turn. Not all non-striking faults are committed by the person who is going to be striking the ball. They can also be committed by people in the same match who are bystanders effectively while someone is playing a ball. So let's look at a typical example. I've decided that I can't really get in to run the hoop with my red ball, so I'm going to clear one of the opponent balls, in this case the blue ball. You'll have noticed that my opponent didn't get out of the way in time and the ball hit her. That was a non-striking fault on her part. And what does that mean? It means that she loses, or her side loses, their next turn, which of course would be to play the black. So the moral of the story is that always stand well clear of the action, and certainly not in line of fire. Of course, I could have said to her, well, a ball's coming your way, please move out of the way. On the other hand, opponents should be reasonably alert to what's happening and realise that they are in the line of fire. Sorry dear. It may come as a slight surprise that there are no fewer than 15 clauses in the rules of golf croquet dealing with etiquette, and this is under Rule 14. all those 15 clauses are basically about common sense things which you would expect, such as behaving reasonably, looking after the equipment, and so on. You should not, as an onlooker, make noises, move about, distract the person who's playing. And particularly, of course, if you're actually playing in the same match yourself and somebody's shaping up to take a shot, don't be moving around, and particularly don't be moving around in their eye line. So if here I am into hoop 5, I really don't want somebody moving about just over there by hoop 6, so getting my way and distracting me from taking my shot. It's just off-putting, and it's not good manners anyway. So when people are playing a shot, be quiet and stand still, and don't stand in the direct line of sight. One of the things you may not do is to assist your partner, for example in doubles, by marking a spot for he or she to place a ball with a marker or perhaps a leaf. I'm not allowed to put that leaf there and say, Charmian, please aim at the leaf. What I can do in doubles is to use my mallet as a pointer to indicate where I would like her to play to, but I must move it before she actually plays the shot. That's not bad at all. So we're going to have a look at referees and their uses. In both forms of croquet, both golf croquet and association croquet, it's not usual to have a formally appointed referee. It can happen in major tournaments, but generally speaking, players are expected to be their own referees and to be totally fair and objective in the way that they approach the game. And there are occasions when it can be quite difficult to decide on certain aspects of the game. The usual one is whether or not a ball has actually run a hoop or not. So let's just have a look at the rules for hoop running. So how do we know when a ball has run a hoop? Here we are at hoop 4, and the direction of play is right to left on your screens. The red ball is currently outside the plane of the hoops on the playing side. When it breaks that plane, it is said to be in the jaws of the hoop, and it's not until it breaks the plane of the hoop on the non-playing side, this side, that it is said to be beginning to run the hoop. So that ball is now beginning to run the hoop, and it continues to run the hoop until it's all the way through, and the ball has finished running the hoop when it breaks the plane on the playing side. So in that position, the red ball is through the hoop, it's run the hoop. If it hadn't quite got that far, if part of the ball was projecting on the playing side, it would not have run the hoop. And when the ball gets very, very close to being through the hoop, it can be sometimes quite difficult to tell whether or not it's through or not, particularly if you've got a white ball and you're trying to adjudicate it against the white hoop. One of the things you should not do is to run a mallet down the playing side of the hoop, because if the ball is not through the hoop and the mallet touches it and you don't quite see it, you can push the ball through the hoop. So how do you tell? Well, you should have a little referee's kit in your pocket, like this, and every player should have one of these, and in that kit there should be a few essential objects. So the referee's kit should contain a number of ball markers in different colours, a divot repairer, usually obtainable from a local golf club, and a rubber band cut in two. So here we are at the hoop, and I think you can see on the camera that there is in fact a very small bit of the red ball sticking out on the playing side. But just to make the point, take your rubber band, and if you slide it up the hoop you can see that the rubber band flexes as it comes over the red ball. The ball weighs a pound, and if you don't stretch the rubber band too tightly, it will just bend nicely round the ball, and it's quite clear then that that ball has not run the hoop. In actual practice, you very rarely really need to do that sort of test. You can see normally very clearly with what the rules call an ocular test whether or not a ball is through the hoop. The only case where perhaps there might be difficulty is if you're playing with a white ball, and it's sometimes quite difficult to see the junction, as it were, between the white ball and the white hoop. But normally you should be able to see it without using artificial aids. Another case where you might want to think about calling a referee is where there's a possibility of a double tap. Here are two balls quite close together, perhaps 5 centimeters apart. I'm going to clear the black ball with the yellow, and there's a danger here of doing a double tap. Why does that happen? Well, as my mallet hits the yellow ball will then move and hit the black ball, and if I don't stop my mallet immediately, it will catch the yellow ball again. Let's just show you that again. I hit the yellow ball with my mallet, which hits the black ball, and my mallet comes through and hits the yellow. How do we know whether there's been a double tap or not? First of all, you cannot hear it. The sound is more or less instantaneous. The only way of telling whether or not there's been a double tap is by the distance that each ball has run. If it's not been a double tap, the black ball, the object ball, should go around 8 times further than the striker's ball. If the two balls go similar sorts of distances, then there has been a double tap. Let me demonstrate. So I'm going to demonstrate a shot which is not a double tap in a match, and if you thought that there was the possibility of doing a double tap, you should either mark it yourself or get a referee to come and mark the balls for you. So using markers, you put them either side of each ball along the halfway lines, so that if there has been a double tap, the opponent can ask for the balls to be replaced. So here are the balls with markers in place to show where they were before the double tap shot was attempted. So this is basically a stop shot. As you can see, the striker's ball has gone roughly a mallet's head length. The object ball has gone 8 yards, something like that. So I put the balls back in the same position, and now I'll try and do a double tap shot. So you see the difference. My striker's ball has now come, at least 10 yards, and the object ball has gone another 10 yards. So that was clearly a double tap, although you couldn't hear anything different from the original correct shot. One of the things that often happens in golf croquet is that you need to move out of the way if there's another game in progress. In other words, the lawn is being double banked. And sometimes, if, as here, balls are close to a hoop and someone else, another game is coming up and wants to use this hoop, you have to mark the balls. And there are ways of marking balls which are correct, and there are frequently ways which are incorrect. First of all, one of the things you should never do is to use a coin to mark a ball. Why is that? Because if you forget to pick it up, and people do forget to pick up coins, and the coin gets into the lawnmower, it can do a great deal of damage. So always use a proper plastic marker. They're very cheap, and so there's no excuse really for not having them. You should use a fixed point for every time you want to mark the ball, and use the same fixed point. And the obvious same fixed point is the peg in the centre of the lawn. So if I want to mark this yellow ball, for example, I take my marker and I put it in a direct line behind the ball. So the ball is between my marker and the peg. So there is the peg in the centre of the lawn, and my marked ball is there. Here is the marker in a direct line through the centre of the ball, and I can tell to within a millimetre whether the ball is going back in the right place or not. So that's very simple, and it's so easy to mark balls correctly and get into the habit of doing the same thing every time, always using the peg and putting your marker behind the ball. Now we'll have a little look at some more tactics, this time about the opportunities for promoting a ball. My opponent's ball, the black, is in the jaws of hoop 9. She is next to play. You'll notice that my yellow and red ball are quite nicely lined up alongside the hoop and pointing in the direction of the next hoop, which is hoop 10. It's now my opponent's turn to play the black ball, and she will get it as close as possible to hoop 10. So my opponent has got her black ball into quite a powerful position here in front of hoop 10. My two balls are down beside hoop 9. How can I counter this shot, because she's quite capable of running the hoop from here. As black was the last ball played, it's now my turn to play with the yellow, and I'm going to try to promote my red ball down towards hoop 10 in order to have a chance of clearing her black ball before it's her turn to play it again. So after blue has played, it's now red's turn to play, and I think you can see that from here it's a much easier shot to clear black than it would have been playing from up by hoop 9. Not all promotions need to be long distance ones like the last one. Here we are at hoop 11. Blue has shot at the hoop and missed. Red is next to play, and black is quite some way away. But red has the opportunity to promote yellow gently in front of the hoop. So if black now misses yellow, yellow has a very easy scoring opportunity. So that's the end of module 4 of our series. Thank you very much indeed for watching it. In our next module, module 5, we're going to be looking at handicap play, how to calculate extra turns in handicap play, and how best to use those extra turns when you've got them.